All right.
All right, hello, my name is Siddharth,
My name is Hector.
and today we'll be presenting our frog dissection in comparison to a rat dissection. Please bear with me today. My voice is kind of lost my voice. My throat kind of hurts. So please forgive me if I'm a little bit unclear. I'm speaking a little too soft and a little too slow. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. Let's get into this. All right. So the animal background. So the scientific name for a frog is called an anura. Its phylum is an chordata. It's in the Animalia kingdom. So that pretty much means it can be found anywhere in the animal kingdom. Its type is amphibia, so that means amphibian. So frogs are closely related to toads. Some people get that mixed up sometimes. This niche is called a salientia. Now, the rat, its scientific name is Rattus. Its phylum is Chordata. Its type is Rodentia, and its niche is Cypridentia. Um, all right, so a little bit more about it, the abiotic factors and biotic factors about its community, population, and where it pretty much lives. So, like again, frogs are pretty much found in many places. I find them a lot around here. I find them near Little Lake. I pretty much find them near, like whenever I'm trying to go to Cobb 1 to my classes, I find them all over the place. But I find them near like bodies of water or wetlands. So its abiotic factors are, wetland, vegetation, rocks, water. Its biotic factors, insects, other animals around the same size as a frog. So they're pretty much coexisting with each other. Uh, Frogs do have natural predators. Frogs usually prey on insects. So it's just it's like a life cycle of food chain. Now, frogs in their habitat, they usually live near soil-rich areas with a lot of different nutrients, a lot of different insects. It's usually a wet surface, wet area, and it has quite a bit of sunlight. They're not usually in the dark, although at night they are nocturnal, as Hector will later add. Um, for rats, they can find them literally pretty much anywhere. They're probably somewhere in your house near warm areas. They're scavengers. They'll be found in trash cans. Pretty much any dirty or dingy place. They're pretty much there to like scavenge on any morsels of food. Um, so its natural predators are usually like birds or slightly bigger animals. So here at UC Merced, frogs and rats, they coexist with birds, cats, rabbits, and raccoons, just to name a few animals that I've seen around the area. All right, Hector.
All right. How a frog fits into the food chain and web or slash web. Frogs are an essential part of the food chain due to the fact that they're both predator and prey. Even tadpoles remain a key segment in the food chain because tadpoles help in the regulation of algae and regulate blooms. Tadpoles actually eat algae, so that's why they help in the regulation of it. Frogs are an important food source to a variety of animals. These include birds, fish, snakes, and monkeys. And because one of the primary things frogs eat is actually insects, they're a key component in managing the insect population. Next slide. This is going to be on how rats fit into the food chain and web or slash web. And because rats are often preyed upon, they are placed on the bottom of the food chains and web. And while rats do eat other animals like mice, insects, and birds, they are often preyed upon by other carnivorous animals. Next slide. Mating patterns. So frogs often mate around early spring, while rats mate in warmer temperatures. In rural areas, rats will often mate in summer when it's the warmest. However, in urban areas, rats will mate in all times of year if they have a warm environment, like a house to live in. Male frogs mount females and fertilize the eggs as they mount them as they emerge from their backs. And depending on the species of frog is depending how long the mating is. So usually it'll be like from hours to days to weeks to months. So it really just varies. Next slide. The behavior of the species. So common species of frogs are nocturnal to conserve water within their body. Nighttime is cooler, therefore there is less water loss. Frogs also have a resting position that allows them to conserve water. Their senses are also better suited for the dark. So being at night is obviously going to be better for them. Frogs hibernate in the winter. Rats are both opportunistic and scavengers. They will eat anything from trash to corpses. Um, Rats also seem to travel in packs. Brown rats, for example, seem to follow the largest rats, while rat species have several dominant rats, some other rat species. Rats are often preyed upon. Because of this, rats mate, reproduce, and have large litters to compensate for their constant losses, like other animals dying, other species dying. Continue.
All right, so the digestive system. So the mouth, the salivary glands and esophagus and stomach, small intestine, large intestine. In the picture on the left, you can clearly see the large intestine. You can see the pancreas. You can see, can't really see the mouth or the esophagus. The picture kind of got cut off, but they're right behind what I'm pulling up here. What I'm pulling up here is the lungs and the heart. Just like humans, frogs and rats both process the food the same way. They consume it to their mouth. Just like humans, in human cells, we both have mitochondria. So most of our, digestive process happens in our mouth through the salivary glands. Our saliva breaks down the food so that it's easier to digest when it comes to the stomach. A similar phenomenon happens in the frog and the rat system. They both have livers and gallbladders and pancreases, and sphincter muscles. These muscles help contract and move food all throughout the digestive system. So just like that, we'll be leading into the excretory system to talk about how the food is processed out. Now, in the excretory / reproductive system, we have the kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, urethra, male reproductive organs. Unfortunately, for this this picture on the left, this is a female frog. So what I'm showing you here are the eggs. So as Hector said before, the male frog would usually spend between days to even months fertilizing these eggs. So in this zoomed in picture, if it was zoomed out a little bit more, you'd be able to see female reproductive organs such as ovaries, fallopian tubes, a uterus, cervix, even a vagina. For this male rat, I'm sure this is a female rat as well. As you can see, there are no testes in this rat. So it also has, just like a female frog, it also has a vagina, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix. So rats, they produce offspring like humans. They don't produce it through eggs. Now to move on to the respiratory system, earlier in a picture, I was lifting up the lungs. So this is a zoomed in picture of the lungs, and this is a zoomed in picture of rat lungs. On my left here, we have the lungs. So it usually starts off with a nasal cavity. So the nasal cavity is stored in the nose, which would be on the head. Just like humans, we all breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So the pharynx and the larynx are towards the throat area. So when you hear a frog ribbit, it's making that sound during using its pharynx and larynx. Its trachea processes gases. So like when you breathe in oxygen, when you breathe in oxygen, the trachea processes that. When you exhale carbon dioxide, the trachea also processes that. Just how we do it, the frog and the rat do it as well. The bronchi and the alveoli are there to process the oxygen, so it comes into the bloodstream properly. Yeah, so next slide for you, Hector.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna be talking about the rat's nervous system and frog's nervous system. Hopefully Sid can help point out some of the stuff I'm gonna be talking about because I cannot. So first, there's gonna be the brain, which is a brain. Okay, the next thing we're gonna talk about is, or I'm gonna show you, is the spinal cord. And the spinal cord is what it shows on the diagram, but yeah, the spinal cord's right there. And the cranial nerves, spinal nerves are around the cranial nerves are around the brain, while the spinal nerves are obviously around the spinal cord. And the reflexive reactions, an involuntary unplanned sequence or action and nearly instantaneous movement in response to stimulus. So that would be obviously triggered by the nerves from both the frog and the rat. Next, I'm gonna be talking about the axal and appendicular skeletons. So the axal skeleton is actually like the legs, the tail, I think would be considered that, and the hands of both the frog and the rat. While the appendicular would be like the spinal cord, the brain, in both the rat and the frog. That would be the spinal cord, the brain. I mean, the spinal cord, yeah, the, the, the chest, the ribs, and all that. And then there's also the cartilage joints, ligaments, and tendons, which is just connecting everything to the muscles and the spinal cord. And yeah, that's it. Pretty much it. Oh, how the muscles work actually. Muscles are attached to bones by tendons and help them move. When a muscle contracts, it gets shorter, so it pulls the bone it's attached to. When a muscle relaxes, it goes back to its normal size. Muscles can only pull and cannot push. So that's what muscles do. That's what muscles do. Next to the circulatory system. The circulatory system, rats and frogs have both have closed circulatory systems. Frogs actually only have 3 chambered hearts. The heart chambers include 2 atria and a ventricle. So the difference between pulmonary and symmetric is pulmonary circulation moves blood between the heart and the lungs, while systematic circulation moves blood between the heart and the rest of the body. And the chambers of heart are superior vena cava, right atrium, inferior vena cava, right ventricle, left atrium, pulmonary veins, pulmonary artery, and aortic. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also the blood arteries, capillaries, veins, they transfer plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so going to just a general comparison. So the common thing between them is that the fact they have lungs and 4 limbs. According to this phylogenetic chart, you can clearly see that. A couple of differences they have is the fact that, rats have fur, frogs don't. Frogs have smoother skin. They also kind of don't look anything like each other. So as you can clearly see on this phylogenetic tree, the frog and the rat are like, pretty far apart. In fact, the only place they converge is the fact they have lungs and 4 limbs. So frogs, their most recent ancestor is salamanders. It comes to they're very smooth skinned and they have long tails. So as evolution happened, they lost the tail, but they kept the smooth skin. Rats, however, have a common ancestor called the Anacollodia. It's a common ancestor of a rabbit, so rats are pretty close to rabbits and other mammals like that. Rats did shrink in size and they got a much longer tail. So if I were to make a prediction on what may have caused my animal to evolve in the at the point of the last common ancestor, I'd pretty much say it's survival of the fittest or natural selection that caused these animals to evolve. Just their general demeanor and how they normally live. So there probably was also a development of predators. Frogs would have back in their genealogy would have probably their ancestors would have lived underwater, so they probably would have had a natural predator there and they moved on the land. But yeah, that's about it. So when it comes to frogs and rats, they are pretty different. They do have very similar things, and that's what completes an ecosystem. They are separate but they're separate, but they have a lot of common things. They have a lot of common things between humans. They have a lot of common things between other animals. And at the end of the day, we are all our own being. Thank you.